and welcome to WaveTalkers Live. My name is Chris Mattia. My amateur radio call sign is Whiskey 6 Alpha Hotel. I'm joined by my esteemed colleagues Dan, NR6V, and Scott, KM6RFB. David is out on assignment. He's going to be out for a few weeks dealing with some other things. And so let's get right into today's topic. I'm going to go ahead and jump over here and dive down into the corner. Today we're going to be talking about field tested deployment gear, and we've got a lot of exciting stuff, and you'll definitely want to stick around until the end because we've got a lot of new exciting announcements that are coming in here. So let me pull the guys down here real quick, and we're going to get right into the show today. So like normal, we there we go. If you have access to WinLink, send us a WinLink check-in. Send it to all four of our call signs. They are W0, DHG, NR6V, KM6RFB, W6AH, and our tactical address, WaveTalkers. Be sure to use the WinLink check-in form when you send it, and use down in the comment section of that form, let us know what your favorite field tested deployment gear is. If you're not familiar with sending in a WinLink message, we've done the walkthrough from episodes 1 through 119. So go ahead and check that out. We're going to jump right into today's topic, though. We'll check back in at the end of the show and see all of the check-ins, and we'll map all of those together. So go ahead and send that in, and we're putting the all of the names in the chat there for us, everybody. Yeah.
YouTube's not live.
YouTube's not live?
No.
It says it's streaming. There's 5 people on it.
It shows it's waiting.
7 people. Refresh. Go find another version of it. It's there. Okay, so let's dive into the deployment gear stuff. So back in episode number 6, this was a long time ago, we asked this question. We said, what do you need for this deployment? We were talking about deployment gear back then. And for much of the past 100 episodes, we've talked about your WinLink setup, your radio setup, your computer, the antenna system, power system, all of that. But on this slide, back in episode number 6, we brought up this entire collection of other things. We talked about safety gear. We talked about your medical kit, your office that you would need, the clothing that you would need, food, fuel, power, your sleeping arrangements, all of those sorts of things. But we've neglected going into all of that information until now. That's what we're going to be diving into today. And one of the other things that we talked about in that episode was we broke down, when you think about putting together your deployment kit, your go bag that you have, or your drop kit, whatever you're going to call it, we talked about breaking all of your equipment down into smaller kits so that you could have your equipment all ready to go and you'd have a lot more flexibility. So much of the previous 100+ episodes that we've done, we focused on the orange layer and we focused on the green layer. Today, we're going to focus mostly on that blue layer and that other kit. So we're going to start off by letting everybody know that we have a new shop that's been set up on Amazon. You can go to it by going to amazon.com/shop/WaveTalkers. So if you go ahead and go to that, I'm going to take you over to that because we're going to use that as a tool as we walk through the deployment gear information here for us. So let me jump over to my laptop. And looks like some folks have themselves unmuted. There we go. And so this is what the page looks like. Again, it's amazon.com/shop/WaveTalkers, and it should come up to look something like this. And we've got a bunch of different categories laid out here. We're going to walk through some of these as we walk through the gear that we have tested, because that's the things that are actually in this list. Now, in the upper left block of this, we did put together a block of Black Friday items that would be of interest to MCOM operators. They'd be interested, items that would be interested to hams, and family preparedness stuff. So let me go into that, and I'll kind of very quickly show you what that setup looks like. When you come in here, these are all things related to deployments, related to field exercises. So for instance, a ham radio operator may not be involved with emergency communications. You might just be going out doing POTAs or activating, doing a SOTA activation, or maybe you're just going out and operating out in the field, having a good time. So a lot of the equipment and a lot of the items that are in here are all things related to that. And some of these may appear in other categories, but these are all Black Friday deals. And you may notice that this list is going to change because we're up here updating this every single day throughout the next week or two to make sure that we keep it as current as possible. And we're constantly looking for additional items. So feel free to kind of browse through that. And we've gone ahead and pre-selected a lot of things that we think you may be interested in. But let me go back here. I'm going to click back onto the WaveTalkers page, and we do get a commission if you buy anything, but it doesn't have, nothing costs you anything extra. So each of these categories here are broken down so that you're able to go in and find some really relevant gear. The one that I want to start off with is this one over here. It's the safety gear. I'll go ahead and click into that. And you go ahead and if you're following along with us on the web, you can go ahead and follow along with us here as well. And I want to jump over to Scott and hand it over to him because Scott, you're a safety officer, and you this is what you do professionally. So let me bring you up. I'll swap you in. Are you going to share your screen, or do you want me to click around for you?
You know what? Let me share my screen here.
Okay.
One second here.
There you go. All right. So you're up, and you can go ahead and share your screen, and folks should be able to see that as you're walking through there. And
all right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So kind of where I want to start off at is on this top line here. You notice that we have several different safety vests up there. And the reason we picked some of these, especially the one from Westchester, now it doesn't have to be a Westchester brand, but it is what's referred to as an ANC Class 2 breakaway vest. And what's that mean? It means, so in the fire service or in emergency services, we have to wear breakaway vests on the side of the road. The idea is if it gets snagged on the side of a vehicle, it doesn't drag us. It tears. The vest is designed to tear away from the body and not injure the person wearing it. So that's one reason I selected this breakaway vest. It can be any breakaway vest, but you want to make sure that it's an ANSI Class 2 breakaway point vest. There's lots of them out there. There's different types and stuff like that. So just things to think about when looking at vests. The other thing that we use a lot of is again several different brands, and are these little rechargeable LED road flares. So we're all used to the road flares. You hold them out and you strike them and you throw them on the ground and you light them. Part of the problem is with these road flares is that the problem with regular road flares is if you throw them out into dry brush or near dry brush, it could start fires. So these are designed not to do that, and they're designed to be just as bright. Even in adverse conditions. I'm kind of showing the video here of it real quick. We carry these. I've replaced all of these out in our response vehicles of the standard flares to these. They're really bright. They're magnetic. You can hang them. You can do all kinds of things with them. They even have a flashlight. There's like 9 or 10 different positions for these things to work. And they're super, super handy. They come in a carry bag. These here are rechargeable. You plug them into a USB port and they're rechargeable. The ones that we bought before that, they take 2 AA batteries inside. but super nice to have in any gear bag for a vehicle. Other things, kind of scroll down here. We're going to kind of look at these 3 items right here. Fall protection. A lot of us climb towers. A lot of us are above elevation, and when it comes to fall protection, guys, it's important. It really is. And I have both of these harnesses. The one here, which I'll bring up, is probably the more appropriate one, because some things you have to remember about fall protection. When you fall, your body actually elongates in the fall process when you stop at the end. And there's a thing called suspension trauma. Suspension trauma happens when you hang for a long period of time, and these lower leg straps here actually start cutting off the blood flow to your legs. It can be rather imperative to get back up. And the reason this type of harness is good, it keeps you upright. It doesn't allow you to turn upside down because your pick point is on the back. So you're going to be elevated, you're going to be vertical, versus having just like a rappelling harness where you can actually flip upside down. This one also allows, so this is a rescue/work harness. It also has pick points in the front. It's also got places to hang equipment off of for climbing, and it's very comfortable. It's got a nice pad on the waist, and really important to keep in mind when using any type of harness is that you keep it tight. You want to keep it tight for the potential when you start to elongate. So like this one here doesn't have a waist harness. This is just used for work. It's not a rescue harness. It's strictly a fall protection harness. And this is the lanyard that goes to it. It also has a built-in shock absorber. So as you fall and as the harness arrests you, this will actually open up and cushion your blow on your fall. So when you're using these things, you have to take that into account. You can actually stretch almost 2 feet during a fall. It's rather interesting to see the dynamics of fall protection and why it works. But these are really good harnesses, and they're not that expensive. They're ANSI and OSHA approved. Keep in mind that any harness that you guys own, they're only really good for about 5 years of heavy use, and then they have to be replaced due to ultraviolet light and just general abuse because of the stitching on them. Other things are helmets. We actually use this helmet at my day job. It's the Pretzel High Vis. Ours are actually white, but it's the same helmet. Very, very comfortable helmet to wear. There is an optional sun visor that you can put on these helmets, which is right here. I don't use it. I actually use this headlamp here from Fox Fury, based out of San Diego. And part of the reason is it goes around the helmet. The battery pack is in the rear. The light pivots up and down. It's a broader beam light, and it has green LEDs in it, which you can switch to, which is easier on your night vision. They say red, any color realistically other than white, is a good light to have for night vision because it doesn't take away the dilation and constriction of your pupils, and it doesn't take that much time to readjust your eyes. So you've got the ability to use green lights. There's different settings here for different brightness. And probably last but not least of some of the items we talk about is, let's see where it's at. Eye protection. Eye protection, it's right here. We've got several different types. And I will tell you that eye protection is really a user's choice out there. And it's extremely hard for people who wear glasses. That you can get prescription safety glasses, But if you're not bound by glasses, what you want are things that are ANSI ZA7 approved. And you want something that isn't going to fog up on you when you breathe. And you want something that's got adjustable templates. These make all the difference in the world because nobody's head is the same size. So buying fixed templed safety glasses can be a challenge for them to get to fit right. It wears on your ears and stuff like that. So you want to get something out there that again, probably the most important, that it's actually ANSI ZA7 rated. And for me, I like to have cushions on the temple bars and adjustable so it will fit most things that I wear on my face at times. Again, any piece of safety equipment you buy, I highly recommend that you spend the extra money for the good stuff. Because when it comes to harnesses, how the stitching is done, how the buckles are stitched in, is really important. A lot of this stuff isn't OSHA approved or have any OSHA or ANSI ratings. You want to make sure on that. Buy name brand equipment. There's a lot of just inexpensive, cheap stuff that is out on the market. But it doesn't offer you the appropriate protection. And same with safety glasses. That's what I've got, Chris. I'll bounce it back to you.
Great. Hey, thanks a lot, Scott. So I want to go through the bag that I carry. This is one of the kits that I have of safety gear. And one of the things that we're trying to show throughout this whole episode as we're going through this and the stuff that we have up here in this shop, it is all the stuff that we actually use and we have tested out in the field. So as I go through this kit, you'll start to see that the items that are on here really are the things that we really are testing and we're using. So I use just a stuff sack. This is one that I actually made. I just quickly sewed it together. Some of the things that I carry with me all the time in this, I've got knee pads. I do a lot of shows where I'm having to do a lot of work crawling around, running network cables and so forth. When I've been out doing the exercises and doing deployments, I find myself doing similar sorts of things. And so being able to protect your knees, these are really nice. I don't have these listed right now, but I will get these listed up. That is where I went ahead. That's where I got them. Other things in here, safety gloves. Now I have both just regular leather gloves in here. And then because I lived on a sailboat for so long, I have a lot of pair of really good sailing gloves. And these are excellent because you got a lot of flexibility in the movement of your hands, and they're leather. You can see these are actually pretty tore up. I've retired them off the boat, and now they go in just the overall safety kit for me in here. Some of the other things in here, these are those the goggles. I saw Bill made a comment in about, are those safety glasses good for a helipad? These are I got these when I started doing the Baker to Vegas race, because when you're out in the desert, the winds can blow up and you get in a situation where you really cannot see at all. And so the lens in this is replaceable, and you can put a lens in it that has both prescription, and you can get ones that are sunglasses as well, and they'll fit over top of your glasses. They've got a nice foam. They're really comfortable, and they do great out in the desert when the wind is blowing. You'll notice in the safety stuff, I've got tennis balls, a listing of those, and it's just a general pack of those. And what the idea here is, you go ahead and just cut a little hole in the tennis ball, and then for your antenna guy lines, your tent stakes and so forth, just go ahead and give this a squeeze and then put it over top of the tent stake once it's in the ground. And especially for your guy wires, because then it makes the stake in the ground much more visible. It creates a nice pad on top, and you don't need anything fancy. Pretty much any old bag of tennis balls that you've got will work for this. And I literally just have a whole bunch of them. I cut a bunch of holes in them, and they work great. Along with that, get yourself some flagging tape, so you can put flagging tape on the guy wires themselves, so that folks wandering around can see that. I always carry some of the nitrile gloves. because I end up using these quite a bit when I'm working. Use a skull cap in here, and what else is in here? That's about all that's useful in there. So that's some of the stuff in the safety category. Let's jump back over to usually we'll go back over to slides real quick. So the next category we want to talk about is the shelters. And shelters is something that if you're just going for a day trip, you may not need an overall tent, but what you might need is an easy up. We'll talk about what those are and where we use those. Other events can be much more long-term events, or if you're going to go out and do a POTA or a SOTA activation, you may end up in a situation where you're having to hike a long distance and you need to be able to stay wherever you're at. So when it comes to shelters, back a number of years ago, when we talk about field testing the gear, I did a 50-mile kayak trip on the main island trail, and everything that I took with me all fit inside of my kayak. And so a lot of the gear that I use still today is the gear that I got for that trip, and I have continued to use it. And I'm going to show you a lot of that stuff as we go through today. So what's in my kayak here? It's a 17-foot long kayak. We just island hopped for about a week and a half, from one island to another, and we ended up doing 50 miles offshore in the kayak. So this is the tent that I got back then to be able to do the trip. Now this is, and I actually have it right here as well. So you go over to this one. So I bought the Eureka Timberlight. So they don't make this version anymore. The one that's in the shop, the Eureka tent, is basically the same one as this. And I literally have been using this tent for about 30 years now. This is it set up on one of the islands in Maine. And it worked fantastic while we were out there. It has traveled all over the world. I've actually been in multiple countries where this has been the tent that I've used. Here we are set up on one of the other islands. You can see the other tent that the other couple was in, and I never had that little vestibule on the front. I didn't get that for this one. What I had was one of the extended rain flies that I would use when I would backpack and I would camp just with my hammock. And so we just used that to extend out over the tent, and you can see that's how we had it set up. Just about 3 weeks ago or so, I set my tent up in the backyard here at the house to just double check it, because I was gearing up to be able to go on a camping trip, and I wanted to make sure everything was still good and operating. So one of the take-home messages for this whole episode is take your time when you're planning out your equipment purchases, and make sure that you buy the best gear that you can get, that you can afford, when you get it, and take care of it. Because the better you take care of it and the better gear you get, the longer you're going to have that equipment and the more use you're going to get out of it, which is going to overall drive the price down a lot. I don't know how many other of my friends have bought multiple different tents that they've gone through because they've gotten, kind of low cost tents, and they've not survived all this time. So Scott, are you still here with us? You are.
I am.
Yeah, so I want to jump over real quick. Let me actually bring up the shelters.
Why don't you bring it up, and
I'll just bring up the shelters page here.
Yeah.
And can you talk a little bit about these first two that are in here?
Oh,
What's up with those?
absolutely. So at my agency, since we do a lot of deployments to fires, and a lot of times we get there to the incident before there is any infrastructure put in place. So we have to, either sleep under the stars or sleep in the vehicle, or find a cozy piece of ground. And a lot of times that's not, that could be bad because, for one reason or another, they could leave the sprinkler systems on, or wild animals have a tendency to come wandering through camp. So I was tasked by my leadership to look at tents for us to deploy with out in the field that we could take out with us. So we ordered a bunch of tents. We got onto Amazon and we looked at a bunch of tents, and two of them. And after we got them, these were two of them: the pop-up camping tent and the reactive outdoor tent. And the reason was we needed to find a tent that anybody could set up in a very quick amount of time and get it tore down and back into its bag relatively fast. We didn't want to have a bunch of parts, because nothing is worse than getting to where you need to go and realizing somebody forgot to pack one of the flexible arms that hold this thing up. And so you're kind of out of luck at that point. We also wanted to look at tents that could have enough room to put your gear, and we move with a lot of gear personally. We wanted to be able to at least get a cot in there if we could, to get us up off the ground to prevent any cold issues. So, and the reason we chose these two was they made the final cut, and then we narrowed it down even further, and we chose the Nightcat. And you want to click on that? The Nightcat will literally deploy within seconds. Literally, you undo the strap and just throw it, and it will automatically deploy itself into this shape. Problem being is it's fairly the actual bag itself can be large that it's in. And it does take a little bit of a learning curve to get it folded back up, kind of like your sun visor in your vehicle. It's kind of a challenge sometimes to get these things in there, but very roomy, could hold a full-size cot without any issues. And it was enough room. A two-person tent is actually almost a three-person for all your gear and everything. So we ended up going with this tent just because of ease of operation, and we didn't have little tent spikes or tent holders to lose. But I went a little bit further. I opted for this one personally. So I personally carry this tent for the simple reason it does have all the little arms, but it literally takes 3 seconds to erect this tent. Everything is hinged. So you literally lift up on the centerpiece, which is right in the center here. It's a little quick release, and it literally just folds down on top of itself and folds itself back up. And you just roll it up, put it back in its bag, and away you go. Very roomy. It says it's one person, easily two people, one person, and all your gear. Very comfortable tent. I've used it numerous times in inclement weather. It has a built-in rain fly, so you don't have to add that if you don't want to. It's just automatically there, and it works really well.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Scott.
Yep.
So as we look at some of the other items on here, we also have these easy ups, and I want to jump back over to the slides real quick, because the easy ups is something that we have started using across the board. I had never had one, but this is when we set up and did the Starlink episode. The Easy Up ended up being absolutely essential just to create the shade to get us out of the sun. We even had to deploy some of these some tarps to be able to help create a little more shade that was in there for us. Here's a similar Easy Up. This is one of Scott's that he has for his Aries team. They set up and did a little deployment, and so they were able to set a nice little area for people to come over and learn about what their team was doing. So not only did it create a nice little shade spot for them, but it became a nice meeting place for them to go into. This is Winter Field Day, just at one of the local parks here. Some other operators came over, and we got together at the local park. It was really nice to be able to have, again, just that shade to be able to set up and to be able to operate throughout the day and not be just burned out by the sun. Um, let's jump over to kitchen gear, because when you're out on a deployment or you're just out operating out in the field, more than likely you're going to get to the point where you're going to need to eat. And so I want to go through some of the gear that I use when I'm out in the field. So once again, we're back in Maine. We're out on one of the outer islands, and this was our kitchen. While we were out there, we would basically find any rock, tree stump, whatever we could find to be able to set up on. Oftentimes we were setting up on the ground. One of the interesting things about this entire trip, you can see where we're at right now. It's the ground is very dark. It's because we're at low tide right now. The tides were about 17 to 18 feet. So we would end up at night pulling the kayaks up into the trees because they wouldn't flow away with the trips. But anyway, this is the one of the setups that we had. This is typically what the kitchen would end up looking like. We got the pots and pans. We have the little stove that we were using. This ended up being the little cook kit that we put together to have all of the various odds and ends and things that we were using. You can see it's got these weird initials on it. We stopped at LL Bean and we bought this bag literally off their sale rack because somebody had it embroidered, and then they didn't want it. They didn't buy it. So we went ahead and bought it, and I've just ripped the stitching out of the embroidery, and it was just a couple of bucks to be able to get that. You'll see these bags. I'll show you these in a little while also. These are the SE2 Summit bags. These are little dry bags that we use to store a lot of the gear. But we'll walk through the stove that I use. The stove that I ended up choosing is the Dragonfly by MSR. And this one is a really good stove because it's multi-fuel. So you can use the white gas, you can use gasoline, you can use kerosene, you can use diesel, you can use all kind of stuff with this stove to be able to burn it and run it. This was our lobster dinner that we cooked one night using the cook set that we had. The Gerber that's here, I still literally carry that pretty much every day. And here's the Leatherman that I also still carry. I usually have both of those on me, and I actually have I have the Leatherman right here as well. Let me just go ahead and bring that up. This is the Leatherman that was in that picture, and I literally am still carrying it today. The pouch is pretty much worn through at this point, though. But this is the stove that I got, and it's seen quite a bit of use over the years. I've got the complete rebuild kit that just lives inside of the bag with it. I also keep the pump for the fuel bottle. The fuel bottles look something like this. You don't have to get the branded ones, and they end up with a pump in. You screw a pump into the top of them, and then I just have a spare because I had multiple fuel bottles that were there. Now the stove is really nice. It's super easy to set up. You just pull the little pull the legs out. They kind of lock into place, and then top piece flips over. The fuel bottle just plugs into here, and then you've got a single control over here. It's got you can light it, and it does a great job. It burns super hot, and it's really quick to boil water, cook all your food with. I liked it because it was very stable as well. It had a nice wide base, so at no point on the trip or since have I gotten in a situation where I've like knocked it over or anything like that. And you can even see that where I've been using the stove quite a bit. So this is again at Baker to Vegas. I had a very early start one day. I get out to the stage that we were supporting, doing the communications. The wind was just howling out there. So I used some of the black and yellow bins that I loaded in my truck. This is what I was transporting my gear in. I just created a little wind block for those, set up the stove, set up the little kettle for me to be able to boil water. And of course, that was all in the realm of being able to make some coffee for us. Now, you can see the coffee maker that I'm using here is literally just the funnel that's in the cook kit that I would carry around with me. We've got one on the list. If you go into the cooking section, that's this really nice collapsible one. I have just put that one on order because I'm super excited about that. But you don't need a lot of space to be able to set this kind of thing up and be able to use it. So I really like the stove. It collapses very easily. I'm just gonna toss it over here and get it out of the way for right now. The pots and pans that I use, these are also the MSR pots and pans. Are the stainless steel ones. So by kind of modern standards, they're super heavy, but I think they weigh about 2 pounds or something like that. But these are 20 years old and they've seen a ton of use. As a matter of fact, when I moved from the East Coast and I moved out here to California, this is the cook set that I brought with me, and I cooked using this set for a full year while I was out here until I got the boat and I moved aboard and had more facilities to be able to do more cooking. This is a windshield that goes around the stove itself. So when the pots sit up on the stove, it keeps the wind off of them. And this kit just has it. The normal kit comes with the 2 pots and the lid and the handle. The handle is actually in the bag. Here's that bag with that stitching that I had cut off of it. I'll show you what's in there in just a second. I also picked up the stainless fry pan that goes along with it, and the whole kit fits inside of there. And I do have the tea kettle that goes inside of this as well. That lives on the boat. That's still the tea kettle that I use on the boat all the time to make the pour over coffee that I make there on board. So I really have used this a ton, and it's in remarkably good shape for being 20 years old and having seen so much use over the years. When I look at if we have a look real quick at the kit, the chef kit that I use, this is literally just a bathroom kit that I liked because it's got the little hanging thing. You can hang the thing up, and all of the gear hangs neatly so you can be able to access. And I've got a variety of different like silverware and some of the chef's kits and the pot holders and knife and whistles and all kind of stuff like that in here. All the normal stuff that you would need, matches and sharpening stone for the knives and so forth that are in here. So it just creates this nice little small compact kit to be able to pack up, throw it in your go pack. So if you're going out in the field, you've got something to be able to get you through while you're out there. Let's see, what else do we have? We'll move away from the cooking stuff for a little bit. And what's next up here? Oh, some of the other gear. So this little table is one that I picked up. It folds down. It folds into the size of about a camping chair, a typical camping chair. The top of it just rolls up. I can't tell you how much that I have used this little small table over the years. When I first moved off the boat and moved into the house, it became the workbench that we used for a while. We've used it on multiple different deployments. It's not a lot of space, but it's really stable. A lot of the ones that you find out there, the legs, that the supports underneath of the legs end up being so that you can't get your knees underneath of them. This particular one is one that you can get your chair up close enough to be able to get your knees up underneath of it. Let's see, what else? What's next? Oh, let's go over to bags.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
One thing that you're going to have to add to the store, and if I can share my screen real quick.
Sure.
When Chris talks about camping stuff, guys, I have carried this to Hurricane Katrina. I have carried this to every deployment I've ever been on, and I'll have Chris add this. This is what's known as the K-Bar Tactical Spork. It's awesome. It is incredible. It literally pulls apart, and there's a knife inside of it. So you now have a fork, knife, and spoon to eat your delicious MRE. And I can't tell you how many places this thing has gone with me. And it's durable. Absolutely durable. All right, Chris, all yours.
All right, cool. Let me switch back over to here. So let's dive into, oops, not that one. Let's dive into the bags and cases. So when it comes to cases, we spend a lot of money on our gear. Radio equipment specifically, For those of us who do video work, audio work, we may bring cameras, we bring all kind of different gear with us out into the field. As a marine biologist, which is what my original degree was in, I have traveled around the world carrying, very sensitive scientific equipment. We've always used Pelican cases. We use them on the large shows and events that I do as well. And this is what I trust all of my gear in as well. This is the Pelican 1510 case. One of the things that I've done to all of my cases, you can see some of the larger cases that I have back here in the back. I use just some label tape and put around the case in various different spots, so it becomes a little bit easier to identify. Put a couple of stickers on it, things to be able to quickly identify when your case comes off of a carousel when you're traveling with it. The 1510 is one that you can take as carry-on on all commercial airplanes. It's sized for that. I think it's a perfect size for most people as their primary tech kit. So this is the case that lives as my tech case all the time. And I keep inside of the case, I keep it organized into a variety of these small packing cubes that work incredibly well. I love these things. One of the biggest challenges that you have when you get a Pelican case, or you get kind of any case, is you've got lots of little tiny pieces that you need to keep together, and you need to be able to grab them and go to some other location. And you need to be able to do that fairly quickly a lot of times. And so one of the tricks that I've used quite extensively is on these bags, and they come with a couple of different brands of them. I just look and see whatever the cheapest ones are on sale right now, because they're all pretty much the same. So as you look through the ones that I have, they're all, a lot of them are different brands. Like this one is the Amazon brand. eBags is no longer making these, but I've got a couple of ones in the store. I use gaff tape a lot, and just put a little loop of gaff tape on the handle. Now, gaff tape, if you're not familiar with it, it's kind of like duct tape, but instead of the plastic, it's a really nice fabric tape, and it can be removed off of a lot of surfaces. So it's used very heavily in the film industry, in the events industry. I get it in multiple different colors. You can use Sharpies to be able to write on it. I even label a lot of my Sharpies with a little bit of gaff tape, so it's easy to be able to identify what your gear is. And you can do that by simply taking a little bit of gaff tape, fold it around the handle, and then just write a label on it. What's nice about this is when they're inside of your case, all of the labels can be facing up, so you can very quickly look down, find the kit that you're looking for, grab it, and go. When you find kits, when you find these packing cubes, I found that the really big ones are nowhere near as helpful and useful as a lot of these smaller ones. As a matter of fact, the one that the size that I really love of these, and I'm getting a little out of order for the slides, is this size. It's an extra small one. And it's perfect for a lot of cables. You can see the label on this one is radio programming. So this lives in my CommL kit. And if I open it up, I have literally all of the programming cables for all of the radios I'm likely to encounter, all the adapters, USB to USB-C adapters, and so forth. Everything is all completely inside of this kit. So if I'm out on a deployment and I suddenly have to find myself in a situation where I've got to program somebody's radio for them or set it up, I have all the cabling that I need. I've also gone ahead and I've picked up the cabling for radios that I don't even have. So I know I'm with the teams that I work with, I might not have whatever Yaesu handheld or whatever Kenwood handheld or some of the other ones. I've gone ahead and I've picked up the cabling for many of those and used the software that I can interchange. So it's a really helpful thing to have on a deployment, and it keeps these bags keep everything nice and well organized. Let me jump back over to the slides. Two other things that are in here. So you can see in that, you can see these battery holders. Now, this is something that I picked up the idea from Scott, because I used to just throw my batteries in the box, or I'll keep them in a little blister pack, which is a real pain to be able to get at them. These are really nice. We've got them listed in there. Scott turned me on to them again. It's great because you have a clean way that you can keep the batteries organized. They don't short out with each other, but you can also quickly look at them and you can tell when a battery goes bad. So for instance, this one right here, if I pull this one out, I don't know if you're able to see this, but the bottom of this battery actually exploded. So it did not end up harming any of the rest of my gear. It didn't end up harming any of the other items in the kit because it was locked inside of this case. And it's very easy. You just push the batteries, they pop out, put another one in, and it's very easy to reset them when you're done. So I have gotten to really like these. I've picked up several of them, and I keep them in a lot of my different kits these days as I'm working with them. Another thing that you can see in the wider kit, this is my link sprinter. I've talked about this on the shows where we've done networking things. So one of the things in that kit is my network crimp kit, and this lives inside of that kit. I've tried to do as many of the small dedicated packing cubes kits as I can, and I keep everything in them. So I ended up buying a lot of duplicates of gear. For instance, I'll have like an Ethernet dongle to be able to plug in and use in my computer, and I keep one of those inside of the network kit, and I keep cabling and so forth. So when I grab that, everything is fully self-contained, and I don't have to worry about grabbing from multiple different kits. I can just grab the one and be able to head out and deal with that. I'm going to throw this bad battery away now at this point. So if we look at one of the other kits that I have, I mentioned my CommL Box. So this is another 1510 Pelican. This one is actually one of the Harbor Freight ones. It's the same size as the Pelican. They're a heck of a lot cheaper, and I'll show you why I don't like these here in just a second. But this kit, the first one that I showed you, is essentially my CommT kit, where it's my technical kit. I take it to shows. It's got a lot of all of the same gear, networking tools and so forth. This one is much more set up to be in a leadership role. So you can some of the items that are in here. Here's that battery programming kit. I've got some T cards, a T card holder, the NiFog, the fire scope. Each of these binders, each of these little folders back here have a variety of different documents in them. Some of them have my credentials in them. Some of them are position task books for the different positions. There's a larger folder that's in here where I've got printouts of all of the common ICS forms. Down in the bottom, there's things like a keyboard and a wired keyboard and mouse pad, and like all kinds of stuff that you would normally need if you're in that kind of a setup. Matter of fact, one of the other items that lives inside of there is this. This is my portable office, and it's got like notebook, little small notebooks in it, pens, paper. If I open it up just a little bit, and I don't want to open it too much because it tends to pop apart. I got too much junk in here. It's got everything from scissors and dry erase markers and a little tiny mini stapler and a hole punch, and just all the kind of common office supplies that you're likely going to need if you find yourself out at an exercise or at a deployment. This is the kind of thing that you may find comes in super handy and you need, because you're out. You can't just like run to the corner, Office Depot or whatever to pick stuff up. You need to think about that ahead of time and have that kind of gear already set out with you. All right, so I mentioned that I'm not really crazy about the Harbor Freight or some of the lower cost ones. So last summer, I did a whole series of events. I was on the road for much of the summer, and I carried my Pelican case and I carried this Harbor Freight case with me. When I got back from the trip, I watched both of them slide off the carousel at the airport. The Pelican case bounced and did just fine. This one, when it got to the bottom, the entire bottom of it just exploded. There's actually a big hole that goes all the way into the main case. I had gear that was falling out of the holes that were in here. It really was not something that was actually protecting my gear. Which is the entire point of having one of these cases. It might look like a Pelican, but it is definitely not made like a Pelican. So that's why, if you kind of look at the brands of things, you can even see in the background here, there's a Pelican, and these two big cases back here are Pelicans and so forth. That's what I primarily use as the hard cases when I'm out in the field. Here's another Pelican that I have, and this one has my antennas in it, and you can see this one is set up. I keep each antenna that I've got in its own little small packing cube, and I'm using that little trick with the gaff tape to be able to create labels for them. I'll oftentimes also use a particular color of gaff tape for the label to denote for me what kind of gear is in that. So, for instance, these are all the red labels on them, and I know those are all antenna bags. And I try and keep all of the components for that wire antenna or whatever all together in one spot. I also have some of the larger ones I use for coax rolls and so forth. So these can be really super helpful. This is just a spattering of some of the packing cubes that I get. I tend to watch things like the Black Friday deals, and when they come up for really cheap, I'll end up buying a whole bunch of them, and I use them for all kinds of things. Other things that work really well that are a similar kind of small bag that many people don't think of is those small little soft-sided lunch boxes that you can get for taking your lunch into work or sending the kids to school with. Those work great because they've got a little extra padding around them, and they fit a nice little amount of gear inside of them. And you can oftentimes pick those up really cheap as well. Some of the other bags that I use. So I'm a sailor, and when I'm doing a lot of offshore racing, if I'm doing international yacht racing, this is the bag that I carry with me. It's the bigger North Face duffel. It's an expedition bag. It's super heavy duty. It's got straps on it that you can actually wear it as a backpack. It's got webbing that goes around the outside so you can strap other gear to it when I'm at home and I'm not using it. This is usually where all of my tripods live for the filming work that I do. It's that big that it fits all of that gear and keeps everything kind of self-contained. These are really, really nice bags. The other ones that I'm a huge fan of are the SE2 Summit bags, and these are little mini dry bags. So you can see these are literally the ones I've had these for 20 years, 20 plus years. As a matter of fact, if you look at the ones that are in the store, they look a little bit different than this. It's just because it's the newer model and the logos have all changed. So this is how I label these bags. I literally just write with Sharpie right on them of what is in them. So I even color coded, so the gear was all in yellow bags at the time. Red was for first aid or that sort of thing. The blue bag here, my whole sleeping bag went in, and all of this because everything had to go inside of the kayak, and the kayak had to be not just waterproof. We had the spray skirts on us as well, but all of our gear had to be waterproofed as well. We were out in the ocean paddling around, and absolutely nothing got wet. These did a really wonderful job keeping everything together. The way they work, I've got one of them here. This is the kitchen bag, and literally all my kitchen stuff fits inside of this one bag here. You put everything in. The top has got a little extra seam on it. This is the medium bag, and you just roll it over a couple of times, and then it clips together. Now, one of the things that I hadn't really considered is that because it's waterproof and a waterproof bag, we used it for water purification. So on some of the islands that we would go to, there would be a small stream or something, and we could take one of the bags that we used, I think it was the kitchen bag that we used, if I remember correctly. The front edge of this has got a little bit more rigidity to it, so we were able to lay this down flat on the ground and let the stream kind of flow into it and fill it up and use it as a larger water catchment source. And then once we did that, we used our water purification pumps that we had to then, it's an older one that I've got, but it's the pure hand pump. And we would then use this to like put inside of the bag and then fill up all of our individual water bottles to be able to purify the water that we were using. And I have continued to use this system literally for the past 20 years now. I had used it when I was doing a lot of backpacking back on the East Coast, and I was doing a lot of hiking on the Appalachian Trail. It was another system that I used very similar to this to be able to get all of that gear in. Let me go back over to here. Pack safe. Now, this is an awesome little thing. When you're out with all of your expensive gear and you're out somewhere, you want to make sure that people can't get into that gear, that they can't steal it, they can't get into the bag. These bags, I've got one of them here. I got this. I learned about this when I was in the Virgin Islands, and I was in I was at Jost Van Dyke for a New Year's Eve one year, and we had a lot of camera gear with us, and one of the people that I was with had one of these. The bag itself is made with a stainless steel mesh that wraps inside of the fabric. So if somebody were to try and pierce through here, they can't cut very far because of this intense stainless steel mesh that's in here. And then the top of the bag has this really nice clasping system. So what you do is you put all your stuff in it, you pull this cable so that it's got these swedges on it. They look like these little beads that are on here, and you pull it out until the swedge can lock out of the way. And now people can't get into this part. You take the other end of the cable, you run it around something that's secure, and then you use your padlock to go through this part, and it locks the cable and it locks it to, the pipe that you've got in there, in the bathroom, or whatever you can lock it to, and then all of your gear is secured inside of here. They're really nice. This one is the 12-liter one. They also have, let me go actually onto the site real quick. Let me because I want to show you a couple of the other ones that are on here. So these are the Pelicans and so forth. This is this really cool one. This is also by PackSafe. And you can see what the stainless steel meshing looks like inside of the fabric of the one that I have. And what this does is it drapes around your existing gear. So it drape around a backpack or something else, and you're able to lock that gear bag that's not necessarily a PackSafe bag, but it will secure it like that. They've got a bunch of other products. It's a really cool company. I was really kind of surprised that the guys all didn't know about it. So anyway, that's that one. Let me jump back over to the slides real quick. Deployment clothing. So,
Hey, Chris, did you want to talk about the 511 bag that I use?
oh yeah. I forgot about. Oh yeah, sure. Let's go back and let me go back over to there. And where was I? Nope. There we go. Okay, so
You want to back up?
I go back one. So yeah, some of the other bags that are up here. So this one right here, this is the 511 you've got.
Yeah. So this is a really good bag. I actually have the Psalms 2.0. This is the 3.0. They've made some subtle changes. The big changes they made to this bag was the wheels are replaceable on the 3.0, and they weren't on the 2.0. I have learned my lessons deploying for whatever event. I've seen people take really cheap, inexpensive bags, and I've watched them blow apart on the airline luggage carousel, or they come onto the luggage carousel in a trash bag and they're duct taped because they blew apart at some point, because as we all know, baggage handlers don't treat our bags with a lot of respect, shall we say. This is, like I said, this is a great bag. So 511 has two bags, a CAMS bag and a SOMS bag. So it literally means something. SOMS means some of my, I'll leave out the last word, and CAMS means carries all of my, I'll leave out the last word. But they're literally huge bags. As Chris was showing the dry bags, I use mine from Outdoor Research. Yeah, we'll call it stuff. Stuff is good. Um, um, I use the Outdoor Research bags in my bag because you can stand this bag up and open it in such a way it becomes kind of like a dresser. And I literally have each one of those dry bags. One dry bag holds 3 sets of uniforms. Another dry bag holds my t-shirts. Another bag holds my socks and undergarments. And another bag holds my civilian clothes. I can literally put five dry bags plus a sleeping bag and a mosquito net inside the SOMS, and it's indestructible. Been absolutely in love with this bag ever since I bought it. I bought it right after I deployed to Katrina, and I used this bag for 10 weeks in Puerto Rico for Irma and Maria, and it survived the abuses of the luggage. And another good reason why you carry your stuff in dry bags is I have left my bags at a base camp and only to come back to find out that the sprinkler system was left on and everybody's gear got wet except for the people that had their stuff either wrapped up in trash bags in their bag or in dry bags. So it's a really nice thing to have. A very good bag. It's a bag that you will probably never buy again once you buy one. 511 does a really nice job on warranting their equipment and other things. The other bag that I carry is the Sandpiper bag of California. Lifetime warranty. Company is based in Southern California. It's called their Bug Out bag. I was introduced to it when I went to the PX at Moffett Field in the Bay Area. Someone introduced it to me as a good deployment bag, and it is another bag that I carry. I use this bag as my state deployment bag. I use a 511 48-hour bag for my federal deployment bag. Very good bag, very comparable to as both bags. They have Velcro for you to attach patches or nameplates to, and it's also got stuff to hang other gear off of as well. So very good equipment.
Nice. One of the bags that I use, and it's listed there also. Let me go ahead and pull Scott down so it's a little bit easier to see that. This is the first tactical bag that's listed there. I picked this up about a year ago. I've been using it now for about a year. And I really do like it. There's a big slot back here in the back that I can put my laptop in. And what I did is I got a big piece of foam that came out of some packing thing, and I have that shoved down all the way to the bottom so that my laptop doesn't bottom out when it goes in because the back is not fully padded. It's set up to be able to have hydration systems or whatever in it. It's got a nice big large pouch in the middle, some small subdivided ones, a nice place for eyeglasses and so forth up here in the top. A real nice big open here to be able to add a variety of different gear. Molly system all over the outside, so it's really easy to attach other things to it as well. So this is a bag that I've really gotten to like and carry. It's very comfortable. It carries a lot of gear. A lot of times I'll put my whole 705 kit, all of the different components, including the mag loop, all in here and be able to carry it and go and set up and operate. I also take it as like my only carry bag when I'm going on short trips. So it's become a really good go-to bag for me for that. So let's jump back to the slides. And the next thing we're going to talk about a little bit is deployment clothing. And we've got a few things in there. And again, the whole idea of this is the stuff we are using on a regular basis, and we're testing out in the field to be able to see how well it really does work. And that's what we want to be able to tell you about. So the shorts that I've got here, these are the LA Police Gear Atlas shorts, and you can see they're really beat up, really bad. They've got paint stains on them and all kinds of things. Last summer, my boat was in the boatyard for about 4 months, and I wore these shorts. I decided I was just going to trash one pair of shorts, and I wore one pair of shorts all summer long in the boatyard. And these things survived. Like, this is literally that pair of shorts, and there's, I mean, other than like the grime and the stuff that I can't just get out of them, they're in really remarkably good shape. Some of the things that I really, really like about the Atlas shorts, and these are the shorts that I wear pretty much every day. I've got a bunch of different pairs of these. The front pockets fit your cell phone in a case really easily. Well, it usually lives over in this one here, so it'll probably slide into that one. The whole cell phone slides right into that case. You can put it glass face down, so it really actually protects the phone really nicely. The other thing that I like about the Atlas, both the long pants and the shorts, is this little beaner here, right here. It's got a little loop that's available to be able to, and I use that to clip my keys on, and then I have them hang just inside of the pocket. They've got real nice cargo pockets, deep pockets all around them. These have held up remarkably well. They've got a little extra stretch in the back, which makes them a little more comfortable sometimes. The other pants that I use are, these are the 511s that I have, a very similar kind of setup. I wear these all the time as well. One of the nice things about these is the belt loops have these extra reinforcements on them. So if you actually get the 511 belt that goes with it, there's a D-ring on this, and so when you actually run it through these, you could actually clip a carabiner to this if you needed to have a rescue operation done and be able to lift out. Now, one of the things that some of the things I don't like about, one of the other really nice things, the 511 and the other ones as long pants, in the knees will take these integrated knee pads. There's extra pouches up underneath of the knees, and so you can slide these knee pads up inside of the pants and lock them in, and so you've got integrated knee pads all the time in the pants. I love these. I use these on shows all the time. I've got the black ones as well, because on the shows I'm all kind of dressed in black, kind of ninja like, and I wear the knee pads inside of them. So if I'm up and down and moving around, I don't have to have the bigger, bulky knee pads on. So some of the things that I'm not crazy about these, I mentioned that my keys, the loop on these is so big that I can't get the keys that I use to attach to it. You've got to put an extra thing on your belt to be able to clip that onto. The other thing I'm not crazy about these is that the pocket for where the phone is, you can see that the iPhone Pro is a much tighter fit, and when you put it down in there, it still pokes out at the top. So all my cases have gotten completely shredded, and the top of them get kind of really grungy up here, and it leaves the port kind of hanging out. So I wish they had a little bit deeper pocket. The outside pockets are great. All the rest of them are really nice, but that's kind of the limitations of what I found with these, and these have held up really well. I've been wearing, I've got a couple of pairs of these, and I wear these on a pretty regular basis. Jump back over to the slides real quick. Those are the 511s. A couple of other things on the clothing stuff that's in there for deployment stuff. I love North Face gear. I really do. I have the whole system. I've got the outer shell and the inner liners and the fleeces, and all of them all inner zip and lock together to give you a layered effect that you have. This is the 550 down. One of the super nice things, it's really warm. Until I moved to the West Coast, I was not really into wearing down because it's on the East Coast, it was a lot wetter, and down was always like, well, it's not going to keep you warm when it gets wet and all that stuff. I have found that that's not as much of the case. I now have a whole set of down gear. This is the medium weight one. For the lightweight jacket, I actually have the Patagonia one, and I wear this all the time. It's nice because all of these jackets, there's a one of the side pockets, you can fold the whole jacket and it turns into a little tiny pouch. So it packs down really small. It's really nice to be able to have with you in all kind of different places, because it's very easy to transport wherever you're at. All right, let's jump over to sleep gear. All right, for deployments, this is something that I picked up. I realized that when you're working on a deployment, you could need to sleep at any hour of the day or night. So one of the challenges with that is all of the light. It's hard to fall asleep with that. So I keep a little small, and it's another one of the little stuff sacks. And I picked up these really cheap, just night, eye covers for them. And then the other little small pouch thing over here are earplugs to be able to wear. So if you need to rack out for a little while and get some sleep, you can do that. And so it's a really nice thing to be able to just have some of these and keep them inside of your kit when you're working out in the field. A good sleeping bag. Again, I like the North Face bag. This is a 20-degree Fahrenheit -7 Celsius bag. So it's a little warm for some climates, but when the temperature drops down at night, and I've used this bag. This is the one that I took on the kayak trip with me offshore in Maine, and I have continued to use it for another 20 years. And it holds up absolutely beautiful. It's got the nice compression sack for it, and that's up there in the listing of things as well. There's also in the list of items. Let me jump over to that because I don't have examples of it here in the it's under deployment gear, which is where the sleeping bag is. That's what my sleeping bag looks like. And if I come down a little bit in this list, where are they? Here they are. Sleeping pads and cots and travel pillows. So when I went up to do the exercise this spring, and we were up there for a full week. David and I were up for a full week, and we were working very long days. At the end of the day, we really needed to be able to get some sleep, and sleeping on the ground was just not really a good thing. I was very lucky to be able to have access to a cot, and I went ahead and bought one since then, because it really did make such a big difference in my ability to perform throughout the day, because I was able to get a really good night's sleep. For the night of the actual exercise, not the prep nights, I ended up just sleeping in the back of my truck. So the thumbnail image for today's episode is a picture inside of the back of my truck where I slept for the night of the exercise. But having a good sleeping pad, having a good cot, having a pillow, having the ability to be able to block out the light from your eyes and close off your ears, really good things to be able to do. All right, that's enough of those sorts of things. Let's talk about scanners a little bit. So a lot of the gear that we're looking at is when you're out there, but before you go out into the field, you want to be monitoring what is going on, and a scanner is a great way to do that. Let me bring Dan up to talk about scanners, and there is a whole section here on the site. If we come up to it, you'll find it. It's there. It's called Radio Scanner. So let me switch over to Dan, and because you are the resident expert in that.
I am the scanner geek for sure. I wear that proudly. We did an episode on this, episode 82. And I'm in talking about the scanners, I'm going to use some terms that you may not be familiar with. And rather than me taking a lot of time explaining them again, we'll just refer you to episode 82, where I go through all of this stuff. But we're going to talk about scanners from the very low end on up to sort of the cream of the crop. We're going to start with one that might surprise you a little bit. This is the Quansheng two-way radio. And we've talked about this a little bit. This is sort of an alternative to the Baofeng. And we've got a Black Friday deal on it here, which is pretty incredible. Why am I talking about this in terms of scanners? Well, most amateur radios have handheld radios have the ability to scan. They're not particularly good at it, but they have that ability. But one thing that's built into this radio is it has scan lists. In other words, you have your channels. I think it's a 200 channel radio. You can pick from that 200 channel list and make a sub list that maybe has some logical relationship. Like for me on mine, I have a wildfire list, and that combines different agencies that might respond to a wildfire in my area. And when I'm scanning, I can select that list or a second list, or you can scan all the channels in the radio. So that's a pretty neat feature. This does 2 meters and 440, which is adjacent to the most popular public safety bands. And with one of the things about this radio that's really neat is that there are alternative firmwares available for this radio that add a lot of features. It just so happens that it has a very good wideband receiving capability, and with the alternate firmware you can unlock it. And LA City Fire Department runs on 800 megahertz, which normally would not be part of this radio's capability. But with the alternate firmware, it works very well on 800 megahertz. So if you're in an area where your agencies are using conventional non-digital channels and don't use trunking, a trunking scheme, and again, those terms, you may want to go back to episode 82. But if you don't have that, then this might be a good entry-level choice. Certainly at $22, couldn't hurt to have one for scanning or as a backup radio. By the way, if you don't know what frequencies are in your area, there is a website called Radio Reference. And if you go to databases, you can drill down to find what is being used in your area. Click near me and drill down, and you can find out what agencies are using what frequencies and whether they're using trunking or digital or anything like that. The second level, and by the way, everything I'm showing you here today, I personally use, with the exception of this radio. This is a kind of an entry-level Uniden scanner. I do not know this scanner personally. I know Uniden makes pretty good products. Most of what we're going to talk about from now on is Uniden. I just don't own one in this category. But this would be a step up from the Quansheng in that it has better memory management. In other words, more scan lists, more memories, but it still will not do digital and it will not do trunking systems. So that's a step up, but still in sort of the entry level. Next up is the Uniden BCD 996. This is the first digital and trunking capable scanner. And I do own the earlier version of this, which I have in my truck. And this is a really good digital scanner, pretty rugged, been around forever. And what they did a few years ago is they updated it. One of the things they added was P25 Digital has 2 phases. The one I have only does phase 1. This new one does phase 2. And I believe they also updated some of the trunking capabilities. So it's a nice base scanner. And I also own the 396, which is the same scanner, but in a handheld. Now, this is discontinued, They may be available still around. I didn't see them on Amazon, but it's a really good, again, digital. So if your local agencies are using most public service uses P25. It will do P25 phase 1, and it's a good basic digital scanner. And pricing wise, if we go back to the 996, pricing wise, it's in the under $400 range. And as we get into these, they get more complicated. The radio systems that are used in public safety can be very complicated, and the scanner manufacturers have done a really good job of making them more user friendly, but it's a little bit of a commitment. That's why you'll see on some of these, Amazon may list them as a frequently returned item, and that's typically because people haven't been able to figure them out and return them out of frustration. But it is doable, and if you find somebody that has one, they can help you with that a lot. The next one is the Uniden SDS 200, which is an awesome scanner, high end. There are a couple of commercial ones that are more features, but this is really a really amazing scanner. I have this one. This is my kind of go-to scanner. It works from a database that Uniden has, and they're constantly updating the database. So rather than having to go and search out frequencies, you just go to the app online and you drill down through their database to your local area, and you can download your whole local area. You can put a zip code in, and it will give you all the frequencies in your area. If you're in an area like Los Angeles, you're going to get way too many choices. And so what I've done with this, and it has a feature that really makes it usable called favorites lists. And basically all you do with the favorites list, you create a logical list, maybe a wildfire list. And then you just go to their database and you select frequencies from different agencies that you'd likely encounter in a wildfire, and you add those to that favorites list. And then with a 2 or 3 button push entry, you can have your scanner only scan that one favorites list, or you can scan multiple favorites lists. So really nice scanner. It has quite a bit better P25 decoding than the 996 we showed earlier. 996 does a pretty good job, but this has got a really good decoder. Sounds almost as good as, the Motorola radios that the public service agencies often use. There is a handheld version of this one called the SDS 100, virtually the same scanner, but in a handheld version. And I do not have the handheld. I have the base or mobile unit, and really, really happy with that. So if you really want to get into scanning and do it in a kind of a high-end way, and by the way, you can do DMR on these, and you can do the next gen, but those are extra cost. You have to subscribe to get those frequencies. Those are, at least out here, are not used. I think some parts of the country they may be. Most all the public service that uses digital uses P25, either phase 1 or phase 2. And of course, the other issue that comes up with scanning now is encryption. Many agencies out here are going encrypted, and unfortunately, once they do that, you're out of luck. But often they will encrypt the tactical channels, but not the dispatch channels, things like that. And that's all I have. Chris was going to talk about one he has called the Uniden Home Patrol. So I'll throw it back to Chris.
Thanks a lot, Dan. So this is the Uniden
No audio, Chris.
Do I have audio now?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Uniden Home Patrol 2. I have a love-hate relationship with this scanner. It comes with a little small antenna. It's got an SMA connector on it. I've replaced that with a BNC adapter, so it adapts into all of the rest of my antennas that are available. It has an internal battery, which sucks. For power, it will take its power off of a USB mini port, not the micro, not USB-C. It's the mini, so it's the weird kind of older technology on that. There is a spot to put some AA's in, so I do periodically like hook it up as primary batteries. There's no 1/4-20 thread mount, so you've got to have a specific kind of mount to be able to grip it to mount it in places. It does have a headphone jack. Some of the nice things about it, and I say I've got a love-hate relationship with it. When you plug it in, I would have to plug in all of the time data to do it. It's got a built-in GPS in it, and so it will automatically find all of the local frequencies for all the different ranges when you're driving. I did a cross-country drive when I went from California to back home to Maryland, and I had it mounted on the dash for the whole trip, and I just had it in automatic roaming mode, and so it would automatically just update itself as I was driving across the country. So I was always able to kind of tap in and listen to whatever was going on, and it ends up being that is a really nice feature of it. The way that I tend to use this it comes with a little stand to put it on. The way that I tend to use it is when a fire breaks out or some kind of major incident that's happening here, I'll oftentimes come in. I've got it. It lives in a small kit that has the cabling and power cords and all that stuff. But I'll plug it in, attach it into an external antenna into the house, and I'll use it as the very first round of being able to like pick up all of the channels, pick up the conversations of what's going on the command and all of the different TAC channels. And I'll use it oftentimes as that first listening mode, and then I'll switch over usually to a couple of other radios if I want to kind of set up a little bit of diversity, especially if there's a lot of tactical channels or a lot of things going on. This ends up being it's got a touch screen on it, so you're able to. When it picks up a conversation, you can one touch and it'll lock onto that one channel, or you can one touch and you can exclude that channel. You can also, it's got a tree system in it. So for instance, if I'm listening to it and there's a big incident going on here in Ventura County, I can block out LA and other adjacent areas where I would normally be able to pick up the signals, and I can isolate it down to very just quickly. I just want to listen to the fire department and all of the dispatch and command channels on that, and it'll do that very quickly, very easily. So, like I say, I do like it, but there's a lot of features that I really wish it had. The buttons, the responsiveness of it is just not as great as I would like for that. Okay, let's I've got a couple of other things before I want to dive into the kind of wrap up stuff here. These are rechargeable batteries that I use. I've got them in the battery section of the power section. And this is a trick that I use because I have a KX3, and you got to take the thing apart in order to get the batteries inside of it. And it does have a charger inside of the KX3, although it takes forever to charge things up. So I end up swapping out. I got 2 sets of these. And I found that the battery holders inside of the KX3 are such that it's really hard to get my fat fingers in there to pull them out. So I did this little gaff tape, and I've got 2 sets of these for the KX3, and I just did them in different color gaff tape, so I know, okay, here's the yellow set and here's the red set, to be able to swap them in and out. And by having the little gaff tape on them, I've got a little handle to quickly pop the batteries in and out, and those just live like that all the time. And the gaff tape is not enough to like cause any issues with the tight tolerances that are inside. So nice little trick that I use for those. A couple of other things that I use as regular deployment kits. These are little moleskin notebooks. These are invaluable. They're really small. I've got notes in here from shows, from all kinds of stuff that I've done. They just stick them in your cargo pocket. If I'm wearing the harness, I'll pop them in the harness. They're really great anytime you're out in the field to be able to have a quick thing to be able to write with. This is one of the other things that I carry with me kind of all the time. It would be classified as some of my everyday carry stuff. It usually just lives in my backpack. These are tactical chopsticks. I love these things. I've used them for years, and so the way that they work, they're aluminum, but when you pull the little tip off, there is a little tip that screws into the end of them. And I always have utensils with me, and kind of fun. The wood that's used in these, the aluminum is recycled, and the wood that's used is recycled baseball bats from the Japanese Major League Baseball teams. Super fun, and they just click back in here, and I tend to eat with chopsticks on a pretty regular basis, and so I always have utensils in my pack, in my go bag, pretty much any time. So let's go back over to the slides. I want to talk very briefly about some of the other deployment gear, and so far everything's been really focused on survival and kind of what you're doing to make sure you keep yourself going all of the time. But when I was on that kayak trip, one of my friends who was there with us, we were like 2 days offshore. We were at one of the outer islands, and he pulls a kite out of his kayak. And I had never flown a stunt kite with the two handles. You can make the thing like spin and dance and all kind of stuff. I had an absolute blast doing this. It was so nice to be out and away where we were. We're out in the middle of the islands, and we didn't have like any other sorts of, and we had like decks of cards with us and so forth. But this was a very nice kind of way to be able to just kind of unwind at the end of the day and be able to have something that was a little outside of the norm to be able to do. Well, literally when we got back to land, they took me over to a kite shop, and I ended up I picked up the Prism kite, this Nexus. And I carried that around with me in my Mini for years. It just lived in the back of the Mini. And if I would get to a spot, it's like, oh, you know what, I can go ahead and just pop this out and, go fly a kite for a little while. It was a lot of fun. And I've picked up a few other ones, but this last one, this Zenith, this is the most recent one that I've picked up. It's a much bigger kite, and it's more of a traditional style. It's more of a lifting kite. And so it's got a lot of pull. It can lift quite a bit of weight. So if you recall, back in episode number 30, we called it Portable Wind Link. But what we did was we all went down to the beach and we flew a LEFS antenna on the kite, and we were doing wind link with Kite Mobile, where we set this thing up. We pull the kite way up in the air, so we had the full length of the antenna. I've now done this with the full-size LEFS, the one that goes to 80 meters, and it's just awesome. The thing is like 120 feet, and it's all of it is just straight up in the air. And the kite just lifts it up very easily. So it's a super compact, really fun way to be able to do a deployment and have something that's a lot of fun to be able to do. Attaching the kite is super easy. If you go back and you watch the episode, we show how I attached it to the kite itself. We literally just took a carabiner and wrapped it around the kite line. We let the kite go up just enough so it had a good solid lift on it, and then we attached the feed point here. So we just wound it onto the kite line and had the carabiner attached onto the little lines for the matching unit. We did the same thing at the end. So the end of the end fed wire was all the way at the top of the kite, and then the feed point was down lower, so we didn't have to lift the full weight of all of the coax all the way up. So it ended up acting like a giant vertical antenna. It was so much fun to be able to do. And so we've got some of those. They're in the deployment gear, and I really like the Prism kites. I reached out to them and said, hey, I'm an amateur radio operator and I'm doing this thing, and they're like, that is totally awesome to do with our kite. Send us some information when you're done with that. So we're working with them a little bit to try and do some content with them for that. So a lot of fun on that. And that brings us to one of the last things to be able to talk about, and that is we are now building some new courses. We've got a website that we've had for a while. We just haven't really used it. It's at courses.wavetalkers.com, and we've been working really hard. It's almost ready to release, so we're going to start doing pre-orders for the course now. We've got a basics course for learning Morse code, and so what I'd like to do is do a quick little demo of what the site looks like when you go to it. Now, I'm still loading a lot of the material, so it's very bare bones right now at this point. There is going to be a ton of material that's going to come on. We're targeting to be able to launch the course and make it live around December 3rd or so. So we are doing pre-orders. So let me jump back over to this machine. So if you go to courses.wavetalkers.com, one of my other video training courses is up there as well. We've got a pre-order fee on it for $24. The regular price once we launch the course, it'll be $29, and you get access to everything that's in there. When you go into the course, there's some information about it, and the approach that we're taking. So my first job out of college, I was a language lab director, and I worked at a university where we taught multiple different languages. I worked with all of the faculty, and Morse code is a language. So we're taking the approach that we used in a lot of those courses. So there's two primary sections in the course. There's a learning to listen section, and then there's a learning to send section inside of the course. You don't pay attention to the dots and the dashes. It's all about learning to hear all of the code. We work with you. It's a self-paced course. It's all an independent study. So there's not like set times. You can go in and use the course kind of whenever you want. You learn to listen to the characters first at 20 words a minute. And you learn how to identify and pick up each of the different characters. We go through the whole alphabet, all of the numbers, all of the punctuation, and build you up to that. And when you're listening to those, you start listening at 20 words a minute with a little bit of extra space in between the characters. But then we very quickly, in that first 2 to 3 minutes, you listen to that character more than 50 times in about 2 to 3 minutes, and we ramp you all the way up to 40 words a minute and then roll you back down. And when you get back down after hearing that one ramp up and back down, suddenly the character sound is just locked in your mind. You hear it very clearly. You're really able to identify it. It's a remarkable thing when you actually experience how it works. And then there's a whole bunch of activities for you to then start identifying that character in words. We very quickly move you from just random strings of words to focusing on actual words that you would use in a CUSO, that you would use in the various different conversations that you may have when you're doing CW. When you go into the learning to send section, after you've worked through the learning to listen section, and you've got a good feel for what each of the character sounds like, then you're starting to learn the fine motor control to be able to replicate the characters. You're then building up muscle memory. We've got a bunch of different activities to be able to work through. It's all video based with a lot of audio, a lot of multimedia that's built into it, animations and so forth. And if you're familiar with our YouTube channel, for the past month or so, we've been putting out new shorts that are available on our YouTube channel. We launch those every morning at 5 a.m. Pacific time, and they're available on YouTube, and it's individual words or abbreviations or pro signs, and they play back at 20, 25, 30, and then 25 and 20 words a minute. It's great little activities that you're able to do. So we're really excited to get this course out for folks to be able to get in and start learning Morse code along with us, and get some CW up on the air a little bit more. Like I say, it's available for pre-order right now at the at the early bird pricing that's up there with a nice discount that's on it. And then once you're in it, you're able to get and use the course for, as much as you want, as long as you want to be able to do that. So that's very exciting. Again, that's at courses.wavetalkers.com. And with that, let me see if I can get, I have not been checking on the WinLink today. I've been being pretty bad about that, so this might take a little while as we try and do the check-in. Let me bring the guys back up while I'm getting the Microsoft Surface to get the WinLink stuff checked in, and we'll bring those guys up real quick. And there's Dan. Dan, you got any closing thoughts for us while I'm getting the check-ins mapped up?
All I can say is that I placed more than one order while we were putting this together. Stuff that Chris and Scott brought up that I need one of those, or I want one of those. So, and it's an evolving thing. We'll still be adding more stuff to the list, but with the exception of the scanners, which really there wasn't much on Black Friday, a lot of the stuff we've talked about, I think, has got Black Friday pricing, and helps us out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. And I think there's some really good gift ideas in there. Preparedness stuff is always a good gift. Usually a surprise, but something that people, gets them started, and they can build on stuff that you give them. And the bottom line is a lot of the stuff is preparedness type stuff.
Yeah, when with the categories that are up there, this is the just getting started stage of getting this. We did just get access to being able to set up the store just earlier this week, and so we've been working around the clock to populate this and really populate it with the gear that we use and that we own and that we can really vouch for what we're putting up there, so that you can go in and find that. Scott, what kind of thoughts do you have for today as I'm still downloading WinLink messages?
Yeah, guys, there's a lot of great stuff in here, and there's going to be a lot more stuff added as I go back through my gear bags, because every deployment I go on, we have what's known as what's in your bag type of training session, and people bring out the neatest things, and I end up ordering a bunch of stuff. And so you've got about 20 years of deployments that I'm going to be putting stuff up with. And, one of the things that I just recently learned about on one of my new projects is I'm building, because all of us have power tools at home, like DeWalt's or Makitas or Craftsman or Ryobis, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and he says, well, why don't you use those to power your radios? And I said, wow, that's a great idea. So this is a buck converter that I'm modifying to go in a case to work off of my DeWalt batteries. It takes the 18 volts and makes it 12 volts. This is really kind of cool stuff, because I've got a bunch of batteries and we all have these things. So these are all types of things that we've got posted up on the store, these different buck converters for different batteries and adapters. I've got some old power tools, some old DeWalt tools that use the older voltage batteries, and they make adapters to take the new batteries now. I don't have to throw away my tools. I can just reuse them now with these adapters. And boy, that sure makes a huge difference when you're trying to save some money, because I can spend $12 for an adapter or $200 for a whole new set of tools. Where am I going? So things to think about. Look at the store, spend some time. Great place to gift shop. Black Friday is upon us. And guys, thanks for supporting us. Hopefully this is going to really help us, help Chris keep the show running and allow us to keep producing such great content that we want to have out there. Oh, on flashlights, boy, hey, if I can take just a quick minute, Chris.
Oh yeah, sure.
So this is one of the flashlights I carry. It's a Streamlight. It's in the store. And one of the big reasons why I like it is because not only does it have the light in the front, but it's got a light on the on this side here. So I'll dim it out, but it literally has a light that I can use this way, or I can use as a normal flashlight. And guys, this is intrinsically safe. You can put it in water. I can do anything with it. It's got a nice clip. That's what I use.
We carried Streamlights on duty, and they were really rugged. They got dropped, blown through the air, and they just kept working.
I'm not going to say that we didn't use ours to adjust attitudes or anything.
Never did.
The flashlight that I carry with me all the time. Again, this is not the kind of stuff where it's like, well, we got this thing and we're just like showing you the kind of thing. Like, I mean, you can see how worn this is. This is literally something I carry with me every day. It lives in the left-hand front pocket of whatever pants or shorts that I'm using. And I love this little thing. It's the Coast Light. It's listed in the gear stuff. It just uses one little battery in the back of it, which is nice. One of the things that I love is the clip on it, because you can put it in a pocket and the clip works in a forward direction, and then you can clip it directly to your hat and it works in the backwards direction. So it works as both a headlamp and holds into your pocket, and it's got a little zoom on it, and they're really reasonable. This is the second one of these that I have. The first one was completely worn smooth. I had carried it for, I don't know, about 3 years or 4 years and so, and then I finally lost it, and I was really sad. And I have a brand new one that's already sitting as a spare, ready to go when I eventually do lose this one. So that's the light that I carry with me all the time. And the older I get, the more I use it for pretty much everything. Let me bring up, let me pull you guys down for a second so we can look at the map. And we can see where folks' check-ins got in from. This is a good test today because we didn't walk through how to do the check-in. So these should be folks who have done their check-in. We've got Victor Kilo 2, Sierra Kilo Yankee coming in from Australia. And this looks like Franz joining us from Austria. Let me go ahead and zoom back into North America. Right-click and drag here inside of WinLink. The purple are pins are folks who sent in their check-in via Telnet. The pins that are in blue are folks who sent in their check-in via RF. I'll just roll over these. I'm going to try and roll over the purple pins first so we can see those, and now we'll roll over the blue pins. These are the people who sent their traffic in via RF. So really appreciate everybody sending their traffic in, sending that check in. Sorry we were off for a couple of weeks. I was in an accident. I am still recovering from it, and so I'm actually in a lot of pain for trying to sit here for so long. So really appreciate everybody joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Be sure to check out the store, bookmark it, and if you find the stuff that we're doing helpful, go ahead and use the store, shop through there, and also go ahead and go to like the video, subscribe if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week. 7-3, everyone.